Welcome to the Stack Report, brought to you by our very good friends at the Sackville Hotel in Rozelle. Today's guest, Chris McQueen. He's one of the more unique, one of the more unusual characters in the NRL. He's a fantastic character. He's played for 3 clubs in the National Rugby League competition. He's won a premiership with one of them. He's claimed an Origin title for Queensland too. Yet somehow he's also managed to represent England at international rugby league level. It hasn't always been smooth sailing. There's been times where it's looked like his career might be over due to neck injuries, due to knee injuries. These days, though, he finds himself plying his trade for the Tigers. It's a very warm welcome to Chris McQueen at the Sackville Hotel in Rozelle. It's a warm welcome to Chris McQueen to the Stack Report. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
No worries, thanks for having me.
Mate, we're going to pick through your sort of life story, your career arc, and I want to start at the beginning, which seems like it would make sense. Kingaroy, from the town of Kingaroy, the peanut capital of Australia. What was life like growing up in Kingaroy?
Yeah, it was good. It was obviously a small town, so there wasn't too much to do. So you either played footy or you were a skater, and I think there was a pretty strong rivalry between the two for some reason. I think that's the case in a lot of country towns. We didn't really get along, but yeah. So I was obviously a footy jock, and yeah, like I said, there's not too much to do, so it was just school and footy.
It's got a bit of a rich history of producing sporting talent, doesn't it? Matty Hayden, Chris Sando, yourself, Matty Ballin, Berrick Barnes. Sport's quite a heavy focus of the town, obviously? Yeah,
for sure. As I said, because there isn't, I guess, too much else to do, you know, for me and my family and for the rugby league club, it was a pretty big deal out there. So we all took it really seriously.
So when you say you were getting into rivalries with the skaters, what are we talking about?
There was always talks about, we're going to go down and fight them, or they're going to come to the footy field and try to fight us and whatever. And it obviously never eventuated, but there was always that sort of talk.
Pretty strong sense of community in a place like Kingaroy, I'd imagine sort of 10,000 people, a couple of hours west of Brisbane.
Yeah. I think in most small towns you find that there is that pretty strong sense of community. I guess that's what it is. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it.
So you're obviously plying your trade these days in the NRL as a big bustling forward, but it wasn't always the case. Playing your junior footy, you're a winger, is that right?
Yeah, probably developed a bit later than most boys. So I was always pretty small, but pretty quick. So in junior footy, I guess it's easy to chuck that guy on the wing. And so I was always a winger right up until 2012. When Madge took over at South, I played my first 3 games, I think, on the wing, and he said, "Look, I'm going to move you to the back row." And it was something that took a while, that transition to be comfortable playing back row, and I didn't enjoy it at first. It was obviously a lot harder, a lot more defence, so I had to be a lot fitter. I had to be able to tackle. I guess as a winger, you can probably get away with not being the best defender because you don't have to make many, but yeah, it was a bit of an eye-opener when I made that transition.
Before you get to South, you're bouncing around in Queensland, sort of the Queensland Cup. How did you get sort of noticed by South to sort of get picked up?
So I played 3 years at Wynnum in the Queensland Cup, and John Lang was actually the recruitment officer at South, and he told me the story when he took over as coach. Heard some stories that I was a good player, and he came up to watch a game. And I was playing fullback, and he goes, I hadn't really done too much during the game, and he wasn't really sure what people were talking about. And then I picked the ball up from dummy half and beat 3 or 4 people and ran and scored. And he goes, that's when I sort of realised that there was probably something there. And so he sort of watched me throughout that year. In 2008 it was, and we finished our season. And they came up and offered me a contract.
So 2008, and as you say, you didn't make your debut till 2012, right, in the NRL?
No, I made my debut at the end of 2009.
2009.
And then, I had back-to-back knee reconstruction, so missed the whole season in 2010, and then started sort of, I guess, playing regular footy in 2011.
So when you moved down to Sydney in 2009, a kid from Kingaroy, he's played a handful of games in the Queensland Cup. What are your first impressions of Sydney, the Big Smoke?
I didn't like it. I was lost. I'd never been to Sydney before. I think probably my whole life I'd spent maybe 5 days here, just different weekends here and there. I was absolutely lost, and I didn't know anyone, and I was coming into a new environment that was NRL players. So I walked in, and I guess I was a bit starstruck with all these NRL players, and it just sort of took me a while to find my feet. Probably probably 6 months after I moved down here, I moved in with a couple of the boys in the team, and that helped heaps. And so that's probably about how long it took me to really feel comfortable in Sydney.
I always love those sort of origin stories of the teammates all living together. Gordon Tallis was telling us on this podcast about living in a house in Cogra, and there was no door on the thing. And I think Brian Fletcher had a similar story about a house that he lived in the eastern suburbs. Who was in your sort of formative house for the Bunnies?
It was 3 Queenslanders actually. It was me, Jamie Simpson, and Dave Tyrrell.
You're right.
We lived together for probably about 2 or 3 years, and Jamie Simpson left and went overseas, and Tyrrell moved in with his partner, and I actually ended up living with Shannon Hegarty, which is another story altogether.
The Rooster / Bunnies centre. I understand he's a bit of a character. Is that
Yeah,
fair to say?
he's out there. Just walks around quoting movies all day. But yeah, so he was at CS when I first got to CS, and then he left and went to the Cowboys for a year, and then he came back to Sydney. And he was living in he owned an apartment, and he sold that and was just looking for a place to live right around the time that I was looking for a new roommate. So yeah, me and him moved in together.
Looking at the on-field stuff, as you say, there were some injuries that held you back. You make your debut in 2009, really late in the season from memory.
Yeah, it was round 22, I think it was. Yeah.
So I guess you're thinking 2010 is going to be your breakthrough season, and what sort of goes wrong there?
That was an eventful, I guess, end to the year. Round 26, we played Cronulla in Cronulla. Neither team were a chance of making the finals, and with about 10 minutes to go, I scored a try in the corner, and someone sort of came and landed on my legs, and I felt a little bit of pain, but I wasn't really sure what it was. And then went back and they kicked off, and we had our set, kicked it back to them, and they had their set, and when they kicked it back, being a winger, I was dropped back, and I sort of jumped to catch the ball, and as I landed, I sort of felt my knee buckle. So I went off the field and went in, and the doc had a look, and he very quickly went, yeah, it's your ACL. And to be honest, timing probably wasn't too bad. It was the end of the season, so I could have the surgery and be ready to go for round 1 the following year. But then that was when our Mad Monday got out of control, and Jason Taylor got punched, then he got sacked, and we got a new coach, and yeah, so there was a fair bit going on. But so I had the surgery and did all the rehab, and I think the boys played their trials. I didn't play any of the trials in 2010, and then I think it was the week leading up, or 2 weeks leading up to round 1, we were just at training at Erskineville, just doing a simple drill, just a kick return drill, and I just went to sort of straighten up as I got to the line, and just felt it buckle again, and went and got a scan and done my ACL again. So that put an end to my 2010 season before it even started.
So at that point, are you thinking, this has got to be, I'm going to be really struggling here. You're not exactly a seasoned veteran who's proved himself. You know, you're a young up-and-coming player and sort of struggling to make your name.
Yeah, and I was off contract at the end of 2010, and I thought I was in a bit of trouble there. Obviously 2 knee recons. The club might think I'm injury prone, or maybe they've not seen enough to want to offer me another contract. But to the club's credit, they came pretty quickly and said, look, we're not just going to let you go out like that. Actually, Russell Crowe said it to me personally. He was at a game pretty early in the season and just said, yeah, we're not going to let you go like that, so we're going to give you another chance. So they gave me another 1-year contract, and gave me an opportunity, I guess, to prove myself.
Is that a surreal situation when you've got Gladiator telling you that, you know, that the club's not going to let you go?
Yeah, it's pretty special. And obviously he loves the boys, absolutely loves the boys, so he shows his face, and he'll do anything to look after the boys. So I remember the first time I met him, I was pretty starstruck. But
when was the first time you met him?
First time I met him was first day of training after Christmas, leading into that 2009 season when they opened the training facility at Redfern, and he was there to do the opening.
Can you remember what he said to you? Was it particularly? Was it all pretty? It just felt like a big deal, but there wasn't actually a lot said.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably just a hello and a handshake, and probably not much more. And I wouldn't have said much to him either. As I said, pretty starstruck.
You got a favourite Russell Crowe story or favourite Russell Crowe memory?
Yeah, I do actually. In 2010, all the boys got given a jacket. All the boys that played first grade got given a jacket. It was a really nice jacket, and you had to play first grade to get one. And I was no chance of getting one. And I blew up all year because I couldn't get one. I asked and asked and asked, and eventually they at the start they were going, yeah, we'll get you on. And eventually they sort of went, look, you have to play first grade for Russell to give you this jacket. and I was absolutely filthy.
You actually?
I was filthy. I carried on all year because the boys had to wear that jacket to the game, and I'd go to every game, and I'd not get to wear that jacket because I didn't have one. And so I was just filthy that I felt like I was being left out. And we got right through to the end of the year, and the very first thing we did before we started our Mad Monday at the end of the year was we went to Russell Crowe's apartment at Darlinghurst, and he dragged all the boys into a room and he presented me with the jacket. The season was over, so I guess I didn't really get an opportunity to wear it, but yeah, it was a pretty cool moment.
Were you angry or happy in the moment?
No, I was happy. I was stoked. I didn't let it go for the whole weekend.
You've touched on that crazy Mad Monday. I've got to ask, what's your recollections of it? Jason Taylor, the boys, it all going Pete Tong?
Yeah, it was pretty out there. I actually left early before he got punched because I'd done my knee, so I was on crutches and I was in a brace and I wasn't getting around very much. So I left probably around about the time the sun was going down. And yeah, I woke up the next morning to find out that the coach had got punched, and it was pretty crazy. I didn't believe it at first because I thought there's no way that happened, but later found out that it was true.
Never a dull moment in rugby league, is there?
No, absolutely not.
So 2010, you go through all the difficulties of the knee injury. In 2011, fair to say that was the breakthrough year, a real important year for you, or is it more 2012?
No, I think it was 2011. So I missed round one, just didn't get selected in the team. North Sydney had a bye, so I didn't play in round one at all. And it probably got lucky that in round one, I think we got a couple of injuries and got a suspension. I think Eddie Pettyborn got suspended, so that opened up a few spots for round two. John Lang was the coach at the time, and he picked me off the bench. I actually played a few games of back row off the bench for John Lang, just because we had no other players. And then as we got players back, then I moved back out to the wing. But yeah, probably got a lucky break at the start of the year with other boys getting injured, which isn't ideal, but I guess you got to take your opportunities when they come. And I basically, aside from that round one game that I didn't play, I played that whole 2011 season. And then Madge took over at South.
And what did Michael Maguire? What did you think when Michael Maguire said to you, "You don't forget playing on the wing"? Like, we see you as a forward, as a back rower.
When he first said it, I was optimistic. I was interested in giving it a crack, but it was hard work. You have to be able to defend. Obviously, back rowers are 80-minute players now, so you have to be so much fitter than a winger is. So it took me a long time to get comfortable with that transition. Had to obviously get fitter, get better at defending. So I was in and out of first grade for probably the best part of 10 weeks. And there was a game we were playing against the Bulldogs, and I was 18th man. I think it was around 16 or so. And Eddie Pettyborn got hurt during warm-up, and so I've come into the team as 18th man. I've come in onto the bench, and I sat on the bench for the whole game, and I didn't get on the field at all. And got back in the dressing room after the game, and I said, "Madge, are you sure this is the right decision? I didn't even get on the field. I feel like I could be doing a job as a winger." And he said, "Well, no, I'm not going to put you back on the wing. We're gonna stick with this." And then I think that it must have been a Friday night because reserve grade were playing the next day, and he said, "Oh, and because you didn't get on the field, you have to go and play reserve grade tomorrow." So I had to try, go home and get some sleep, and then get up the next day and play reserve grade. And the first grade boys lost by 2 points maybe. And then the next day we had a really good game, reserve grade. I think I scored a couple of tries, and Madge just said, "Look, I'm really happy with the way you handled that, and you went back and you got your job done." He goes, "We lost." He goes, "You'll be back up in first grade next week." And that was pretty much the moment that I was back playing regular first grade again. I think we played Parramatta the week after that, and I played 80 minutes. And I think that was the moment where I went, "All right, this is it. I'm a back rower now."
It was like a rich sort of vein of form for the Bunnies. Those next few years, 2014 breaking that premiership drought.
Yeah.
Such a special moment in rugby league history, really. Is there something that stands out to you from the year? Or is it more, does it all sort of blend into one sort of emotion?
Yeah. It all. I think it all blends into one, especially given that we'd made the semi-finals 2 years prior, and I think in 2012 we were up by 10 or 12 against the Bulldogs and got run down. And then in 2013 we were up by 14 against Manly and ended up getting pumped. So I think thinking at the start of 2014 that we have to try pick ourselves back up and go again and be even better is hard.
How heavy is the psychological toll for a club? Because I think footballers tend to say, oh, no, that's outside the club. It doesn't affect what's going on inside the four walls of the football club. But when a drought like that is so significant and so a group of supporters have gone through what Bunnies fans have gone through, like kicked out of the comp, got back in, the wait's been going on and on. It has to impact, doesn't it? Like you have to feel it.
Yeah.
Especially when you have those those close finishes in the semi-finals.
Yeah. You definitely understand it and you definitely do feel it, but I think, as I said, that's the sort of thing at the start of the year when you look at the big picture, you go, geez, how are we going to get this done? But as the year went on, I think we sort of got more confident, and I reckon leading into the finals, if you asked any one of the players, we all would have said that we're going to win it. We'd been through so much and been so close, I think, and given the fact that Sam was leaving and Benny Teo was leaving, we had an extra excuse to do it. But yeah, I reckon if you ask any of the boys a month out from winning it, yeah, we all would have said we're going to win.
It's like a steely resolve
almost.
Yeah,
I think so.
Who was the most important player, do you think, to that premiership?
Obviously, a lot of people look at Sam and particularly what he did in the grand final with the broken cheekbone, the very first tackle of the game. That's something special. But I think personally, I think Ben Teo was the unsung hero.
Wow.
Probably.
I think most people would throw up, Inglis or Sam.
Yeah. But Benny Teo grew another leg probably a week or two before the end of the season, and yeah, he just started just playing out of his skin. He was whacking guys. He was scoring tries. He scored that try against the Roosters in the semi-final. I think there was 3 guys hanging off him, and he carried them 10 metres and scored a try. And it got us back into the game. We were down 10-0 or 12-0 against the Roosters in the semi-final. And I remember Mitchell Pearce was into Reynolds going, "You boys are going to choke again." And yeah, but I think Benny Teo was he was probably the most important guy over the last sort of month of the season.
What was Redfern like after that victory the next few days?
It was nuts. So straight after the game, obviously we sort of hung around the dressing room for a bit and had a few beers. Then we jumped back on the bus and we went straight back to CS Juniors, which is a 5-level leagues club. And there was 2,000 people in the streets. The street was shut down because obviously cars just couldn't get through because there were so many people. And then we got inside and we went up into the function room, I guess, and there was probably another 5,000 people inside. It was absolutely just chockers, and yeah, it was crazy. There were people crying, and I think it meant as much to the fans and the members and the people that have been there for so long as it did to the playing group and Madge as the coach. It was a pretty special feeling.
Did you expect that the Bunnies would be able to back it up? Or was it a case that it took so much out of the club emotionally?
You do expect that you can back it up. And I think after we won that, we won the World Club Challenge, we won the Nines. I think we went 16 games unbeaten. We had a couple of draws in the trials, but sort of the end of 2014, and then with the trials and the Nines and the World Club Challenge, we went 16 games unbeaten. I think we won our first 3 games that year, and yeah, we probably thought that things were going the right way to go back to back. But yeah, there is so much pressure, and I guess particularly having Madge as a coach, everything that we did last year to get us there, we have to do more to get better, because every other team's going to get better. And I think doing that for 3 or 4 years, 2012, 13, 14, trying to back that up in 2015, it wasn't just the pressure and the stress of backing it up from 2014. It was the 2 years prior as well. So I think you could see by the end of 2015, we were just tired and we were probably a bit burnt out. I think we lost 5 of our last 6 games by 30 plus. We got absolutely towed up. So I think it does take its toll.
Michael Maguire's style of coaching is widely recognised as being, ruthless, uncompromising. Does that style of coaching have a shelf life for each team? Will it burn you out eventually?
I think it does. I think he's a 3-year coach. I think what he does is great, but yeah, it does take its toll, especially if you're keeping the same group of boys together. We didn't have much turnover of players throughout his time there. yeah, and I just think it's hard to get through, particularly we get through a year and win a grand final, to know that in 6 weeks' time you're going to come back to training and everything's going to be more intense and harder because you have to get better and you have to do more of everything that got you to win that premiership. So, yeah, I think physically and mentally it does take its toll. But yeah, certainly I think he could go to any club, and given 3 years, he could turn any club into a premiership winning club.
Wow, that's a massive wrap. So 2012, he was so important in transforming your career, turning you into a rep footy player, effectively winning you a premiership. 2015 doesn't work out, and then you have to leave the club. Can you tell us the circumstances as to how you left the Bunnies, a club that's given you, stuck by you through 2 knee recos?
To Madge's credit, he's a very honest guy, and he was away for the start of the pre-season. There was rumours, obviously Sam was trying to come back, and there were rumours, that they're going to get rid of players, and my name was tossed up, and Tim Grant and Dylan Walker left just before I did, and I went and I had a chat to some of the management and just said, "What's going on?" I said, "Look, I'm a grey man. Just look me in the eye and be honest with me. If you want me to go, that's fine. Like that's footy. I understand the situation." And I got told, no, that's not happening. We're not trying to get rid of anyone. And then Madge came back to training. I think he'd been overseas. And he came back that sort of second week of training, and his first day of training, as I said, he's a very honest man. So he just sort of gave me a tap on the shoulder and said, "We need to have a chat." And he goes, "Look, you're contracted for this year. You certainly don't have to go anywhere, but we're not going to be able to keep you after 2016. So the door is open if you want to go find another club now and secure yourself for another couple of years. The door's open to do so." And yeah, so I just figured if I wasn't going to be there after 2016 and that door was open, then I may as well have a look around. And Titans came to the party and picked up my contract for 2016 and gave me a 2017 contract as well. So I took that opportunity when it was there.
A quick break to thank our friends at the Sackville Hotel in Rozelle. Without them, this project is not possible. If you're enjoying this conversation, there's a good chance that you might enjoy some of the other podcasts available on the Stack Report, the likes of Wally Massour, Gordon Tallis, Mick Ennis, Jared Waitley, Ted Richards. The list goes on and on. Make sure you check out our page, subscribe, rate, review. But for now, it's back to Chris McQueen at the Sackville Hotel. How hard was it to leave? Yeah,
it was hard, and it happened pretty quickly. So I sort of had that chat, and then it was probably a month or so later. We were talking to clubs. I nearly went to Penrith before I went to the Titans. Met with Gus, met with Hook, and I was happy and they were happy. But I think between CS and Penrith, they couldn't sort of negotiate the deal, how much CS were going to pay, how much Penrith would pay, and
sure.
So that fell through. But then, Titans ended up picking me up, and I finished training on the Friday, just one Friday. And then I was driving home, and my manager called me and said, "The deal's done with the Titans." And I went, "Yep, sweet." So I called Madge straight away and said, "Hey mate, the deal's done." And he went, "Yep, sweet." And then so the next day the boys trained on the Saturday morning. So I went in and told all the boys that I was leaving, and sort of Madge had a bit of a chat before I did, and obviously Chrissy leaving, blah blah blah. And I got up to talk, and I fell apart. I couldn't say anything, so it was pretty hard. And then the next day, or that day, went home, packed my bags. The next day, flew to the Gold Coast. Monday morning, showed up at training for the Gold Coast. So
unbelievably professional and ruthless in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's purely just a business. That's the way it is, and I think people get frustrated. Players get frustrated because they get hammered by fans and members, and I understand that fans and members have the right to feel upset when players are leaving and that sort of thing, but very often it's not just what you see. Players aren't just chasing money. There's so much more going on, and I mean, to those players that do leave and just chase money, I mean, there's not a lot of loyalty. I would have stayed at CS my whole career. I would never have left, and they wanted Sam, so they wanted somebody else, so I got a tap on the shoulder and had to leave, and it's just the way it is. That's just footy.
I think loyalty in sports is kind of when it suits either party. I mean, and I think fan bases are getting increasingly sophisticated with the way they view it as well. They're more understanding.
Most of them are. When I left the Titans, I obviously put up a post saying I've absolutely loved my time at the Titans. But unfortunately I've got to move on. And someone sort of commented and said, "Well, if you loved your time, why are you leaving?" And as I said, there's so much that people don't understand. But when I was going through that negotiating period with the Titans and with the Tigers, the Titans never even offered me a contract. For the best part of 6 months, my manager was talking to the Titans going, what's going on? He wants to stay. Like, what can we do? What can you offer? And they kept sort of going, yeah, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And it got to the point where I went, well, they've not offered anything. The Tigers have offered me a good contract. I can't turn this down. And it was literally the day that I signed with the Tigers that the Titans sent through, and I feel like it was just a token contract, just so they can say, oh, we did offer him and he chose not to stay. But the reality is they just didn't offer me a contract.
Do you think that that's is that negligence or is that a strategy? Like, how would you describe what's going on there?
I could be wrong, but I feel like Neil Henry doesn't like older players, and that's fine. He's a coach and it's his team. He can build the team however he likes. But in my 2 years at the Titans, obviously I got moved on. Greg Bird got moved on. Nathan Friend retired. Shillington retired. Zeb Taylor got moved on. So all players that are sort of 30 plus. I was 29. But yeah, any player over 29 got moved on. And that's a lot of experience to move on. And I feel like we paid for that in 2017 when we didn't really have the best year.
The Titans are a team that received more than their fair share of criticism and scrutiny. I think they're sort of always under the microscope because of the failures of clubs there in the past. That the Seagulls, the Gold Coast has got a checkered history with being able to get people interested in sport. But what was your experience like playing there for a couple of years? Did you feel that, or did you think, no, this is a great club that's doing good things?
I enjoyed it, and I thought the club's certainly on the rise. Obviously, 2017 didn't help, and a lot of times you'll hear, I guess, guys say, we're not going to make any excuses, but I've never seen an injury run like the Titans had in 2017.
It's the most underappreciated aspect of sport, I think, regardless of where you're looking. Like, if you're missing, there's 25 guys on a roster. If you're missing big chunks of that, you're going to get beaten. You take the top sort of few players out of any team, they're going to lose games of football.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, I've never seen anything like it. I think there was a game in about round 5 or 6 where Nathan Peach was out, Kevin Proctor was out, I was out, Jared Wallace was out. So that's a lot of experience, given the fact that we'd lost a lot of those senior guys that we had the year before. So we had a lot of young guys sort of out there trying to get the job done. And yeah, it was just a tough year. But 2016, when we were going really well, the fans were outstanding. And obviously there's a loyal group of members that will show up, rain, hail or shine, every single week. And then when we were getting that success in 2016, I think we had one game. We had about 30,000 people show up to the game, which was good. But then you get other times when you're not going so well, you might get 6,000 or 8,000 people show up, but that is the 6,000 or 8,000 loyal fans that will show up every week. So, I think that's just the case in sport. If you're going well, people will show up in sport. If you're not going so well, people don't want to show up and see their team lose.
A time where a lot of people showed up on the Gold Coast was when Jared Hayne got signed. What was that like, being inside the club when there was like basically a media cyclone swirling around with the acquisition of a guy like Jared Hayne after his time in the NFL?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Obviously, he was a big name in rugby league and then did his NFL thing, and it was a pretty crazy time. And we played the Warriors that week that he signed, and obviously the Gold Coast has a lot of New Zealand fans there. So obviously they were always going to show up, and then people came out of the woodwork for that game. I think that was certainly the biggest crowd I played in front of at the Gold Coast. But I think just given what he'd done in the past and given that he was Jared Hayne, I think he had a lot of pressure put on him, particularly at the end of that 2016 season. People thought he was going to come in and join the team, and we were going well and thought that, now we've got Jared Hayne, we could make the grand final, win the grand final now. But I think people forgot that he'd not played a collision sport, not played long minutes for the best part of 2 years. NFL, he'd be on for one play at a time, and then he'd sort of sit on the sideline.
You just get rusty, don't you? Like you're not playing the same sport.
Yeah, and I think he came in. He probably started training with us midweek, and he played that weekend. So he didn't have much time to, I guess, blow out any of that rust and even to get to know the boys. yeah, it all happened really quickly.
His relationship with the club wasn't great at the end. Did you see much of that firsthand, or was it all sort of...
I actually missed most of that towards the back end of 2017 because it all happened after I had my neck surgery. So just prior to having that surgery, our trainer came and said, well, look, your season's over, you're leaving the club. Basically, you can run your own show. As you sort of come in, get your treatment. And I still went in more so just to catch up with the boys and see what was going on. But yeah, then I had my surgery right at the end of July, and then we were pretty much finished start of September because we didn't make the finals. So yeah, all that stuff right at the back end of the year, I pretty much missed it because I was just laid up at home.
On your neck injury, when was the first time that you suffered a serious neck injury?
I actually dealt with it for a long time. So
was it like an actual moment, or is it a slow degeneration?
I think it was, yeah, it's just a slow degeneration thing. I had my first cortisone in my neck, I think, probably in 2012.
That just sounds scary. Like, we're going to put cortisone in your neck.
Yeah, it's pretty scary, but obviously the people that are doing it know what they're doing.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
Yeah, so I had a cortisone then, and that was great for probably 2 years. Had no problems with it, and then I guess the cortisone wears off, and slowly it sort of got back to how it was. And I had another one which wasn't as effective, and then start of last year, I think I had 2 in pretty quick succession, and they didn't really do anything. And then we were playing the Rabbitohs, and I copped a big knock, and it always been sort of left side, and I copped a knock, and it jammed my right side, and I started to feel the same sensation in the right, and so. Yeah, our medical staff all sort of said, look, we think you should take a bit of time off. And they wanted me to have the surgery at the start of the season, but I didn't think it was that bad that I needed to. I thought I could get through the season. But yeah, after that, I kind of took a couple of weeks off and then got through a captain's run, and I was going to play. 2 weeks later, I was going to play, and then I said to a couple of the boys, look, just hold some pads, and I'll run through the pads and kind of just get into my head a bit and just try jam it up, and I'll just see how it feels. And my very first carry through the pads, Ryan James just lifted the pad and he's just hit me there, and it's just jammed my head back, and it just buckled me. I was on the ground, I was rolling around in pain, and that was the moment for me where I went, yeah, I think.
Is that terrifying?
It was, because I'd never experienced it that bad, and it was getting worse and worse. But yeah, I said I dealt with it for so long. Yeah, so I went and had a few tests done, and spoke to one surgeon at the start of the year, and then I went and had another opinion from another surgeon. Both our team doctors were recommending surgery. I went and had a test done where they sort of, I guess, test your nerves and test the way your nerves are firing, and they said there was sort of a bit of nerve damage, which hopefully wasn't permanent. It wasn't real bad, but it would have continued to get worse if I didn't have the surgery when I did. So yeah, I think that moment, when Ryan hit me with the pad and it buckled me, I think that was when I went, yeah, this is serious. I have to, I guess, have the surgery.
So you're going for neck surgery, are you at all thinking, maybe, like, I've had a great run, I've won premierships, I've won Origin, maybe it's time to just give it away?
No, I didn't think that at all. I was 29. It was just before my 30th birthday, and Nathan Peets would always joke with me that I'll play till I'm 40 because I've just got a young man's body. So my body's held up really well. Aside from basically the knee and the neck, I've pretty much never missed another game through injury, maybe 5 or 6 throughout my whole career. So I have had a really good run, and yeah, my body's holding up well. So I never thought for a second that I'd retire. And Nathan Peets has actually had neck surgery. He had spinal fusion, and Kyle Turner at the Rabbitohs has had disc replacement, and I actually had one of each. But I spoke to both of those guys, and as I said, spoke to 2 different surgeons and all our medical staff, and yeah, I never thought for a second that would be the end of me.
Anytime you join a new club, there's always that sort of feeling out period. You're trying to, prove yourself to them. You obviously had already signed before with the Tigers. But how impressed have you been with the way that they've embraced you, into the community?
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, first and foremost, showing up to the club off the back of not training for 3 months, they were really great. The medical staff did a really good job of looking after me and I guess getting that volume back in my legs without sort of blowing me out and I guess overdoing it. The coaching staff has been great. Ivan's been really good. Leading into the season, I'd had all my clearances and sort of been doing full training for the best part of a month, I think. And Ivan sort of dragged me in his office one day and he goes, "How are you feeling?" And I think the answer that everyone would have given is, "Yeah, I'm feeling good. I can't wait for the season." He goes, "Look, just have a look at your situation. Just think about it." He goes, "If you're not ready, we're not going to push you to be ready." He goes, if you need a bit more time, he was just really understanding. He said, "I understand you've been through so much that, yeah, if I did need a bit more time, or if I wasn't ready, or if mentally there was anything bothering me, he was willing to give me that time off." But I didn't think I needed more time. If anything, I just felt like I needed more game time just to, I guess, get fit and just to be back out there and be able to put it behind me. And I guess close that chapter off.
Do you feel like after such a long journey, you're finally starting to come good? You've only managed one game this year, but I think, you've sort of verbalised how you feel like you've got plenty more miles left in the body. You feel like you're just at the cusp of breaking through again?
Yeah. So I'm signed here for 3 years, so I've got plenty of time in front of me. And if you'd have asked me at the start of the season, I probably would have said, yeah, after a month I want to be back out playing first grade, but I don't think that was realistic just given where I was coming from. So the plan was always to play the first month in reserve grade and then just see how everything was going. And the first grade boys started the season so well, I guess it made it hard for me to push for that spot. But since then, I think I've been playing some good footy, and I have played one game of first grade, but I think I'm pretty close. I'm thereabouts every week. But yeah, I've just got to wait for my opportunity, and when I get it, just take it with two hands.
We're recording this interview a couple of days out from State of Origin. The interview will go to air after the first game. You're appropriately wearing a maroon coloured hoodie. 2 Origin series with Queensland, 2013, 2014, 2013, a particularly special one, 8 in a row. What is it that you remember about that 2013 season, 2013? And just take me back. Did you expect to get picked for Queensland in 2013?
Probably not at the start of the season, but as the season was going on, obviously we were going so well at South, and then I think the media play a big part in players getting picked. If the media sort of latch onto someone and sort of talk about them, that certainly helps, and it helps if your team's going well as well. So we were going good at South, which made my job easy. There was a bit of chat, and I remember just being really nervous leading into that weekend when the team was picked, because I really wanted to get picked. And we played Cronulla on the Monday night in Cronulla, and I knew that if the club knew, they wouldn't tell me until after the game, because they just want me to be focused on the game. And the team got announced at halftime to the public, and we're in the dressing room at halftime, and the coach is giving his speech, and I looked over and Andrew Everingham was sitting there, and he was looking at me with the biggest smile on his face and just gave me a big thumbs up. And so I knew at halftime that I must have got picked. That was pretty special. After the game, when Madge announced to the team in the dressing room that I got picked, I sort of had to fight back the tears. It was a pretty special moment.
Was it the highest quality football you've ever played?
Yeah, especially game 3. In game 1, I came off the bench and I probably only played about 20 minutes, and I don't think we were ever really competitive in the game. I don't think the score was a blowout. I can't remember the score, but I think New South Wales were pretty dominant in that game. And then game 2, we played up in Queensland and we blew them away. So again, it was not probably not what Origin really is all about. But that game 3, we had to come back down to Sydney and try to get the job done here, and it was a tight game, and I played the whole game. That was without a doubt the highest quality and the fastest game that I've ever played.
You're playing with a team that's going to be recognised as one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest, with some of the greatest of all time: Slater, Cronk, Thurston, Smith. Was it some pinch yourself moments when you're looking around the field at those sort of guys? Yeah,
absolutely. They're obviously legends of our game, and they'll all be immortals one day. So just to get the opportunity to play with those guys, it was a dream come true.
We spoke about Souths in the Premiership, the idea of a lot of people thinking it would either be Burgess or Inglis, as you saw as linchpin, and you actually said Ben Teo. Out of that Queensland side, who did you see as the most important player?
It's a tough one to answer. I think everyone. I think in Origin, everyone has to stand up and do their job. If there's any weak links or anyone not getting the job done, they're going to be exposed. So I think whereas at club level you can have, a couple of guys, I guess, put the hand up and be the leaders. I think at Origin level, everyone has to do the job.
Who's going to win this series? Give us a score.
I'm going to go Queensland.
Of course.
Queensland will win the series 2-1. The first game, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a close game. I think there'll only be 2 or 4 points in it. But yeah, in Melbourne may as well be Queensland. I think that the crowd will be supporting Queensland. So
it's true.
I think Queensland will win game 1. And when's the other Queensland game?
Then it's Queensland, and
Queensland.
Then game 3 is
I
think
think
Sunday night in New South Wales in Sydney, which is unusual.
Yeah, it is. That's right. So I think Queensland will win the first 2, and then New South Wales will win the third one.
It hurts. Another series going. Hopefully, it's not the case from a New South Wales perspective. So obviously, playing for Queensland, something incredibly special for you, and you had to relinquish the ability to do that to then go and represent England. Your father's got English heritage. You, of course, got English heritage. How did it first come to pass that you would maybe be playing rugby league for England?
The very first time was when I was still at Souths, and obviously the Burgess boys were there, and I think so I'd mentioned to them that I was eligible, and I think their coach had just sort of mentioned something, but at that time I can't remember if I was playing Origin or if I was still wanting to play Origin. At that point, playing Origin was my main goal. But a few years later, obviously I was out of the Origin system, and I just didn't see myself getting another chance there. And I was presented with an opportunity. I just thought it was too good to pass up. An opportunity to play international football, and obviously I copped a bit of a hard time particularly from the English fans.
Which is weird.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I won't comment on that, but yeah.
But, you're trying to help them.
Yeah.
So it's strange to then be on the receiving end of criticism.
Yeah, I think they just didn't want me in the team because I was born in Australia, but the rules are there for a reason. My dad was born in England and lived in England until he was 10 years old when his whole family moved over. And I remember in that camp I mentioned to Sam, I said, well, Sam, you've got a daughter now. Imagine if she wants to grow up and play for England. How would you feel, and how would everyone feel about that? Because you're from England, but realistically, your child's born in Australia. And he sort of said he'd never really thought of it like that. Not that he wasn't supportive of me being in the team, but that was just something that he never really thought about, was that his family and his kids are all going to be Australian born.
Did you feel like the team welcomed you in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe not.
Yeah, for sure. The team is good. They, as far as I know, no one had a drama. If they did, they certainly didn't say it or didn't show it. The team is really supportive.
When Origin time rolls around this time of year, is there a sense of regret at all? I mean, I know obviously this year, given your injuries, you not an opportunity to play for Queensland. But
yeah, I don't think regret's the right word, because I certainly don't regret playing for England. I loved every moment of it, and I'm hopeful that I'll get the chance to do that again. But I do miss playing for Queensland. I do miss being eligible to play for Queensland. It is tough to watch. But it is what it is, I guess. I made a decision, and I'm happy with it.
We're just getting towards the end of the conversation with Chris McQueen. I just want to, this is a bit of a random one. Is it true that you've got a pet snake?
I did, yeah. Okay. So
that's a bit of a change of pace there, but
yeah. I actually, when I first got to South, we had Kane Cleo at the club, and he had the snake, and he said that he was going to get rid of it, and I said, well, I'll take it. So he gave the snake to me, and
what kind of snake is it?
It was just a little rainbow python.
How big's a little rainbow python? You know, you're a Queensland, I'm a city kid.
Yeah, it wasn't very big at all.
Like a metre.
Yeah, metre. Yeah. And I had it for years, and then one day I was out somewhere and I came home, and the tank was open and the snake was gone, and for a couple of days I didn't know where it was, and one day I sort of went to walk into my bedroom and it was just sitting on the carpet, so I grabbed it and I put it back in, and I thought that someone must have bumped the cage or whatever and opened the door, but the snake must have just learnt that there was a tiny little gap in the glass. It could get its nose in there and push it open. Because probably a week later, I noticed that it was gone again. The glass was open, and it was gone again, and I never found it.
So it's gone.
Yep,
It's on the loose.
It was on the loose, and then 6 months later, I moved out of that house. So,
Where's the suburb? Where's the rainbow snake? Rainbow
Matraville.
python.
Matraville, yeah.
So if you see a rainbow python cutting around Matraville, it belongs to Chris McQueen.
Yeah.
Didn't want to get a replacement?
No, they're hard work. You think they're easy, but
Yeah, I would assume they're easy.
just because it's hard to find anywhere to buy live mice to feed them. So you have to. I used to get just the frozen mice, and you'd have to heat them up, and yeah, it was just a dirty job, and just a job that I didn't need.
I want to know how you heat up a frozen. Is it what I'm thinking? Microwave.
Microwave, yeah, and yeah, they smelled bad, and yeah, it was just not a fun job. So, and I mean, you can't play with a snake, you can't walk a snake, you can't, I don't know, play fetch with us, and so.
Are they affectionate at all?
No. Every time I held her, I was just hoping that it wouldn't bite me.
Did it ever get you?
Only once, and its teeth are so razor sharp that it just nicked me once, and I didn't even feel it. But then I was just bleeding. So
yeah.
Unusual,
not your standard pet for footy player, not like a little dog for your Instagram account.
Yeah, exactly. Now I've got dogs. I've got 2 dogs, so they keep me busy enough.
Chris McQueen, it's been really interesting picking through what has been a really unique and interesting career. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.
Well, a big thanks again to Chris McQueen, and a big thank you to our good friends at the Sackville Hotel in Rozelle. If you enjoyed that conversation, there's plenty more just like it on the Stack Report page on iTunes, on Whooshkaa, basically wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out. But for now, that's it for the Stack Report.